high-level individuals to understand what it was like. I'm getting teared up a little bit here because it was a lot of work. But you know what? He's been saying it all day. If you want something, you got to work for it. You got to put in the effort. And every week I would show up on the call and they would say, okay, so what'd you do this week? And I'd say, oh, this is what I did. And they're like, okay. And at first, when we first did it, they were like, okay, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions and you got to answer them. And they're like, what does your business look like? Who do you want to serve? What does that look like? What are their pains? What benefits do you want? And this went on and on. And they got deep into it. And they were hard questions. But they needed to be asked if I was going to get the best out of me. If they were going to get the best out of me. I had to understand what that was. So that's what the UMBA program did. And then every week he'd say, okay, so what are you going to do next? I said, I don't know, you tell me, what should I do next? And he'd say, well, and Afia would come on and say, this is your homework. And she'd have this big smile, and she's like, I'm going to get it this week. And she'd say, this is what you got to do. And I'm like, okay. I'd come back next week, and she'd say, who did their homework? And by the way, they have this thing. The class, the call starts at 8 o'clock. And what time do I usually get onto the call?
About 10 minutes.
About 10 to 8. Why? Because the first one on the call is the first one to get called on. And I'm an action guy. I want them to know that I want to be called on first. I like to be up here. I love being on the stage. I've always been that way. So I'm like, okay, make me the guinea pig.
Put me on.
That's it. And she'd say, did you do your homework? I'm like, yes, I did. And we'd do the homework. And then every other week, we would go through the Today is the Day book. And we'd go through the chapter, and he'd come back and ask questions. And one week he said to me, what's the weakness that you put down? And I said, well, I'll tell you, this is the things that were always told to me while I was growing up. That I'm lazy and immature. So I'm a procrastinator. And the two of them started hysterical laughing. They said, if you're a procrastinator, I'd like to see what a real procrastinator is. I'm like, I guess I'm not a procrastinator, but that's what people told me my whole life. And it's the stotomas that kept me in that tunnel vision of what I thought I couldn't do. Excuse me.
You know it's okay to let it out.
No. That's what's choking.
Yeah, it's okay. Hey, listen, man. Oh, I got a new bottle. I don't want to give you my...
So as a result, I didn't do what I thought I could do. When I was growing up, I'd say, oh, I want to do this. And my parents were like, yeah, no, you shouldn't do that. And I would just say, okay, I won't do that. And a lot of that came from the fact that when I was young, I was 10 years old, I had a tragedy in my life. As I was walking home from school, there was a school bus stopped in front of my house, and as I got closer, I found out that the bus driver didn't see my 5-year-old brother reach down to pick something up and drove. And 4 days later, he died. And that was a tough day for me, because I told myself a story that day, that now I'm the only son, I have 4 older sisters. It's my job to make my parents happy. I became a people pleaser. You know what comes with being a people pleaser? You take everything personally. You have a control freak. You have someone who loses his temper at the drop of a hat. To the point, I was an overreactor to the point of being a nuclear reactor. And I would leave fallout all over the place. And I would make excuses. And I'd apologize with the buts. I'm sorry I did that, but. And that continued into my marriage. And then 2008 happened. What happened in 2008? Does anybody know?
Financial crash.
World crash. I was working on a project for 5 years to build a multi-million-dollar health and wellness center, because that's what my wife wanted. She wanted a tennis. She needed more tennis, but she couldn't find tennis courts. So I was like, okay, let's build it. We finally got the approvals in the summer of 2008. I went to the bank. I said, okay, I put $3-4 million in my own money. I need the other 10, 12 million. we're not lending right now. The world's about to fall apart. And 2 months later, the world fell apart. I lost everything. Every penny I had, every dollar I borrowed, everything. And I borrowed money, about $3 million, $2 million from my mom. And she had it, thank God. But still losing $2 million. Fast forward a year and a half later, on my 24th wedding anniversary, my wife turns to me and she says, I'm done. I want a divorce. I'm like, gee, thanks for that wedding anniversary gift. Looking back now, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it kicked me in the pants. And I was at my lowest point, and I said, okay, what the hell did I do to get here? And I realized that I had done things wrong, and she had done things wrong. I was a victim, and I was also the culprit. She was the victim, she was the culprit. Now, there's nothing I can do to save her. If she wants to be saved, that's on her. That was a realization right there, because I was always a codependent relationship. I always tried to make her happy, and I had to let go of that. And out of that came my first coaching, which was your divorce recovery coaching. Now I'm not gonna take too much more of your time. Fast forward 10 years. 2020 comes along. Here comes COVID. Everybody is going crazy, worrying like crazy. I'm seeing everybody worried. I don't understand, what's everybody worried about? I'm not worried. But that's who I used to be. I used to be a worrier. I realized that what had gone through for the last 10 years prepared me not just for COVID, but for anything. And I went from a worrier to a warrior. And over those years, before that, I had come up with the fact that I liked myself and I loved myself. And a few years later, I developed Live Incredibly Full Every Day, life. And a couple of years later, I got married again to a woman that a month into the relationship, I turned to her and said, I want to tell you something. And I don't need to hear it from you, but I just want to tell it to you. I love you. She's like, okay. 2 weeks later, she came back to me, she said, I love you too. 2 years later, we got married. Took me 2 years to get her.
We got a salesman over here.
But I got her. But the reason I'm telling you all this is because I'm not here today because of what I did yesterday. It's what I did 10 years ago, and 7 years ago, and 5 years ago, and then a year and a half ago when he and I got connected. And then got connected to Fia too, in the same time frame. And as things, they pushed me. We were in something else. It wasn't UMBA. And they gave me the opportunity to show that I can share with others. And as a result, when I got into UMBA, I already had a little bit of things. And it's just, I want to go into it. So I was able to, within a year, build my course, online course, that I was able to sell to win that key and get it. Because you can't get that key just by going through the course. You have to sell your program. You can't just sell it to Oba or to Vinny or somebody else that's in the program. You have to sell it to somebody else outside your program. All right? Because it doesn't mean anything. Vinny buying it for me, great, I bought his program too. But it's not enough. It's enough because it says, okay, someone believes in me. But now I wanted someone to go into it and buy it because they believed in themselves, that they needed to change. I just want to give you a little tip, and it has to do with something he's talked about. One of the things in my course, I call it the cycle of A's. Does anybody know what the law of attraction is?
I do.
Yeah? What's the law of attraction?
It's pretty much you put out there and you try to attract what you want.
That's right. So that's the foundation for what's happening. The cycle of A's takes you to the next step. It's A, first thing, ask. Ask the universe, ask God, ask whatever your higher power is for what you want. Second thing, act. That's where it changes from the law of attraction to something greater. Because it's not enough just to ask for it. You gotta act. And how did Dr. Obama act? He asked for it, and then he said, this is what I'm gonna do to get it. All right? The third one is very difficult. It's something he said before, which is 100%. What is it?
Attitude.
Attitude. You have to have the attitude of that, I'm putting it out there, I'm asking, I'm doing the work, but I don't care about the result. Because when you care about the result, that's the lack talking. That's the desire, the need to have it, right? And if you want to have an abundant lifestyle, if you want to live with a mindset of abundance, you have to say that no matter what comes my way, it's coming to me for a reason. And I'm not going to get upset if it's not what I thought it was going to be. Why? Because it's God or the universe telling you it's time to make a course correction. I'm going down this road, and I think this is where I'm going, but God's telling me something different. And I got to make a correction. And when I came to Dr. Oban and Afia, I had just gotten out of a program that I was spending $50,000 for. And God said to me, I'm not giving you the funding to do it. I'm not helping you find the funding because you're not supposed to be in that program. And I told that to the woman on the phone who for 6 months was trying to help me get the financing. I said, God's sending me a message. It's saying, there's something here that's just not right. Tell me how much I owe you for what I've done so far. I'll pay that off and we'll go forward. A month later, I know I'm going over, I'm sorry.
You're over by 2 right now.
So a month later, Dr. Obama and I spoke, and I said, 2 months later, I said, they asked me, so what do you think of the program so far? I said, imagine getting an apple, all right? This other program gave me an apple. What did I end up with? Apple peels. They gave me an apple. You know what I ended up with? An apple pie. Because it came with everything. They over-delivered on everything they said. So I know I went over. I apologize. Nobody told me about how long I was going. But I told you it was worth it.
You got it.
Thank you so much.